interesting. So Mike Shanahan, Kyle's father, was in camp this summer and liked Brock Purdy.
Yeah, and so I think that we do need to provide a little bit of context for the clip. And so I'd also like to provide the context that the reason there was a 15-minute delay is I was trying to get this clip up. And for whatever reason, it was saying tweet not sending, tweet not sending. So I had some connection issues all across the board. Anyway, I wanted to get this tweet up before the show. This actually took place last week. So it's not after how Brock Purdy played this week. This is
Right.
after the 3.5 quarters he played against the Dolphins. And a little bit of context on Sage Rosenfels. Sage Rosenfels works with the QB Collective. A lot of people might remember that name because it was relevant before the 2021 draft when we were trying to figure out who the quarterback was. That's what the kind of QB school that Richmond Flowers, who's Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel, all these guys' agent. That's the QB camp that he runs. And Sage Rosenfels does some coaching in that. So just a little bit of context on the connection of Sage Rosenfels. And then you add to it that he's a former Iowa State Cyclone, the same place that Brock Purdy went and played for 4 years. And then you throw in the extra context that he played for Kyle Shanahan and Gary Kubiak in Houston. And so you throw in all of that. The guy is obviously well connected and well versed on all things Shanahan with the offense and all of that. And I thought it was a very interesting clip that he threw in that tidbit that Mike Shanahan really liked Brock Purdy.
Well, it's interesting. I feel, obviously somewhat vindicated because I've been talking him up since mini camp in May. And I get the feeling that people were like, dude, what's your fascination with this guy? And I'm like,
Right.
my fascination is just simply that nobody talks about him at all. Or if they do talk about him, they talk about him like he's just some Nick Mullins reincarnate.
Right.
And I'm seeing an NFL starting quarterback, and I've been seeing that since May, so I saw it in May, saw it in the beginning of camp, but still didn't want to say anything really until I saw it in the preseason. But when I saw him operating the 2-minute drill in the preseason and looking so veteran like in so many ways, I just thought to myself, this kid's got it. And he's got tremendous intelligence and athleticism, toughness, determination. He's got a boulder on his shoulder. Forget the chip, right? He's got the full boulder. And he's a really determined guy who comes from an athletic family of achievers, and he's accurate, and the ball comes out on time. And man, it seems like you can talk about quarterbacking all day, all night, but really what it's about is it's not like other jobs. Like a lot of jobs, if you're not good at your job, just get there a little early. You're not great at a class, get there a little early, sit in the first row. But you can't just, if you're not a great quarterback, you can't just be, well, I'll just throw it a little early. No.
Right.
You got to be on time. And on time means you have to be, seeing it and understand, throwing with anticipation,
Your feet have to be in the right spot.
Yeah, mechanically you got to be tied together, and you got to know what you're seeing pre-snap, and you got to move guys, and you've got to, anyway, so there's just so much that goes into it. And I remember an old NFL scout told me a long time ago, I said, what does it take to be a great quarterback in the NFL? He's like, you need to be smart. You need to be really, really smart because the game is really intricate. You need to be really, really tough because the guys on the other side of the line of scrimmage are really tough guys. And, you got to be tough. You got to be smart. And more than not, you got to be able to throw accurate passes from a number of different arm angles, depending on the rush. And so you need improvisational skills.
Yeah.
If you have all these things, you could be a good quarterback. And the guys who have all those traits and then some become the best. And, so it's so funny that we're so tied to, no, it's got to be a 6'2.5" quarterback. It can't be anybody shorter than 6'2.5", and it can't be anybody taller than 6'5". And you know what I mean? We've got these really severe boxes that we put these guys into, and if they don't fit into the box perfectly, we're like, guy can't play.
Yeah. So Larry, you said a lot there. First off, I do want to start off with what you said and ask you the question, Larry. You said, oh, I didn't want to say anything after the preseason, all of that. I took a large hiatus from streaming, and I remember coming back. And the first place I came back was the Krueg show with you. And you said this Brock Purdy kid, all of that. And I think this was before the preseason. You not only said he's not Nick Mullins and you think he's a starter, you said, I think this is Drew Brees and Joe Burrow there. Even though you weren't trying to say anything before the preseason and all of that, you were all the way plunged in. So, Larry, you do need to be vindicated because, first of all, to have the guts to come out and say that at that time, because a lot of people, the consistent reporting out of camp wasn't exceptionally positive in regards to Purdy, to be honest. A lot of people thought he was just, forgotten. Nobody really cared. He was just whatever. It was all about Trey Lance. And I remember the one thing I remember you consistently said from day one to date, and even when they signed Jimmy Garoppolo, is that the most accurate quarterback is Brock Purdy. And you talked about the old scouting adage where you stand behind the quarterback and you see how the quarterback sees it and how he's throwing it. And you said Brock Purdy can throw it wherever he wants to. And I remember you saying that. And now I've probably internalized it a little bit more because now I'm thinking, wow, Larry Krueger was right. Like at the time I thought, wow, Larry Krueger's a nut. But now I'm thinking, wow, Larry Krueger's the smartest guy on TV here on YouTube. But yeah, it was an unbelievably good call from you because I mean, we can talk about a lot of things and what he is for the future. And I'm sure we're going to talk about all of that. But after 7.5 quarters, I don't see why not that he can't be a starter for a while. There's so many things that make him successful. And the one thing I want to add with him at Iowa State is that I watched him a little bit in college football because he was in college football for like 80 years, it felt like. Right. I mean, Brock Purdy has been a household name in college football forever.
Had a great sophomore year,
Great freshman year, too, as a true freshman. Yeah. Like, as much credit as Matt Campbell gets, Brock Purdy was every bit a big part of turning around Iowa State into something that competes every season. And so he's got that, right? He turned around a program. But the two things I really noticed compared to his Iowa State, and one of them, I'm again going to quote Sage Rosenfels, because obviously exceptionally intelligent, very knowledgeable guy. And him and Ross Tucker, that podcast was fantastic. But what he also said about Iowa State's offense was so much of it was on the quarterback. And it wasn't this wide zone play action quarterback friendly offense like Brock Purdy's in now. It was a lot of it where the quarterback had to improvise and be creative and play off schedule. And we're seeing now in a quarterback friendly offense that Brock Purdy is able to play on time, on schedule. You talked about it, right? How mechanically aligned. Look at his head when he's in the pocket. His head and his feet always are aligned and they're always in the right spot. And that's why he's got such a great rhythm and sense of timing to when he throws. And that rhythm is really important. Shanahan talks about that rhythm with Matt Schaub all the time. And I think Matt Schaub is one of his favorite quarterbacks he's coached because he compares any quarterback that has good feet and good rhythm to their feet, like Tua, to Matt Schaub. And Mac Jones, I think, would have probably gotten that comparison too from Shanahan. But it's where so much of this offense is predicated on where your feet are, right? Any coach you hear talk about this offense, and that's what I'm referring to when they say so much, is coaches that talk about this offense is it's all about back foot hits the ground, you go to 1. Off the first hitch, you go to 2. Off the second hitch, you go to 3. It's all about where your feet are is tied to where your process is. And we see so many examples of Brock Purdy. First hitch, he goes to 2. Back foot hits the ground, the ball's out. He's got an incredibly quick release as well. I don't want to go too far because I know that we're going to talk a lot about him. And boy, am I high on Brock Purdy after what I've seen in the last 7.5 quarters. Like, I'm very high on what I've seen. I'll keep it like this, Larry. I was planning to temper my expectations. And then yesterday I went on stream and I was like, God damn, if Jimmy Garoppolo played like this, how Brock Purdy played the last 7.5 quarters, I'd be praising the crap out of Jimmy Garoppolo. If Trey Lance played like this, I'd be praising the crap out of Trey Lance. Why do I need to put the disclaimer of 7th round, Mr. Irrelevant, all of this in front of Brock Purdy? Tomorrow, Brock Purdy's career, I have no clue where it goes. That doesn't change the fact that he has been exceptional for the last 7.5 quarters. Exceptional.
Yeah. Oh, no.